Hello, and thank you for joining me today on Loyal World Info. Another day of the globe spinning, another day of global news to digest. I offer a sane, rational voice in an insane, rational time. I will be your host, and let's get into today's topics. Okay, let's move on to our first article of the day, and this comes from Japan Today. Nintendo game pulled from Chinese platforms after Hong Kong protest. A Nintendo Switch video game, has been pulled off China's gray market e-commerce platforms, Reuters check shows, after Hong Kong activist Joshua Wong used the game to protest against Beijing's rule of the Chinese territory. The game Animal Crossing: New Horizons is a colorful social simulator in which players can decorate their own island and invite others to visit. It became an instant hit after it launched last month, and it has been used by many players to interact and stimulate real-life scenarios while they are stuck at home because of measures to curb the virus outbreak. Joshua Wong, the Hong Kong activist, took his protest to the game last week. Then the Twitter protester a screenshot of his island decorated with a banner saying, "Free Hong Kong, the revolution now." China has stringent rules on content from everything from video games to movies and music, censoring anything it believes to violate the core socialist values. Gaming companies must also seek licenses for the games they wish to publish. Nintendo launched the console sales in Japan with tech giant Tencent in December, but players in China can only access multiplayer connections for gaming, such as Animal Crossing, via foreign editions, available on the gray market via platforms as Taboo. Okay, however, since Joshua Wong's Twitter post, searches for Animal Crossing: New Horizons have showed no results on Planido, on Alibaba's tobacco. Some vendors are trying to circulate the crackdown by dictating political buyers toward listing and selling the game without using the title description. Okay, some Animal Crossing players in China have created the scenario that mirror the world, with temperature checks point to waivers wearing masks. Okay, I want to give my comments on this. Stay with me. This article meant something to me because the Nintendo game was pulled. If you recall, maybe think back to last year about the Blizzard gaming. There was a Hearthstone champion player in Hong Kong who goes by the name of Blitzchung champion. And when he was playing, he basically was on TV and he said, "Free my country, the time for liberation is now." Something to that extent. And he got penalized, and two other crewmen were also fired for the job, which is fine. And beyond that, Daryl Morey of the Houston Rockets, the executive NBA guy, he also said something, then he had to backtrack because China says it was no good. So I wanted to point this out, that this is an ongoing thing with protesting and people expressing themselves, and the suppressor is trying to get their way. Now, for my listeners or viewers, I have a question for you. What have you protested? You know, many Americans protested chic razor when they were trying to say toxic masculinity back in the day. But yeah. So, what do you protest? Many people protested chic razors after a toxic masculinity commercial. Protest is when you don't buy, support, or interact with people or a product that goes against your beliefs. I protested movies due to superheroes killing, DC movies. After seeing Superman kill Zod in his newest movie, I did not want to see that from the superheroes I grew up with. So when Batman came out, and then Superman versus Batman, and all the other DC movies, I just haven't seen them. And I heard that the superheroes killed more people in those movies. So to me, I feel I was just. And I even see my little nieces and nephews, they dress in these costumes, and I'm like, well, their name is tarnished now. Another example is when Korea and Japan had an island dispute, Koreans protested killing Japan's national birds in front of their embassy in South Korea. So that was Todako Island, by the way. So my question for you is, what did you protest, and how did you protest, and did you ever revert? Please leave your comments below. I'd love to hear. Our next article of the day takes place in Korea. As you know, yesterday was Easter around the world, and many people like to attend church. Yes, some people did go to online church, some did TV, but many people do not have access to that, and they want to be closer to their pastor or priest. So even myself, I walked around yesterday and all I saw was closed churches. So I wanted to post this article because it offered unique ways that services were handled, and people got to be with others who loved their beliefs as much as them. As a highly contagious virus grips our country, Christian churches were forced to find ways to celebrate Easter and considering the time of renewal, the rebirth of the faithful. With some Protestant churches were held their Easter services online, others conveyed offline to mark the special day. So Sangam Presbyterian Church in Seoul, the oldest Presbyterian church in the country, was one of the churches that had an Easter Mass yesterday. To do this, they actually had people three in the elevator, and they only had one person per row, the pews, right? So they had one person per pew for every 3 rows. So they had about 30 people in the church per service. Other people had sign-ups. So they did this because the guy did it throughout the day. So they had sign-ups. Okay, 30 people can sign up. And then for 10 o'clock Mass, then you can sign up for 12 o'clock Mass and 5 o'clock Mass. Other churches actually did a drive-in worship. Over 200 cars filled the parking lot in the Yongcheong-dong and Easter Sunday. Drive-through worship. Cars honking in unison replaced the usual clapping before the sermon. Members of the church who had registered their cars on the church's website drove in one by one as church staff helped signs telling them where to turn into what station of the radio, and when the cars were allowed to register for each of the 5 services. Our head pastor had been thinking about the drive-in worships for a while, and as the parking lot situation and other church situations allow this to happen, we decided not to wait any longer and start with the Easter service. So I was actually like this because, again, you know, when people get complacent, they get too normal and then too relaxed. It's kind of like an entrepreneur. I like seeing people think outside the box to get their products sold, to gather together, to do praise and worships. So how did you celebrate Easter with your family, loved ones? Leave your thoughts below. I would be really interested to know. Article of the day takes place from the Taipei Times, and this again is about VR headset or virtual reality. It's kind of funny. They're getting a lot of spotlight lately. But this involves racing and professional sports. As many of you know, many professional sports have canceled their seasons, at least in America, due to the bug spread. So this sport actually is doing stuff online. So let's read the article, well, through VR. So close-up views. So virtual racing gives motorsport edge. Close-up view. Fans can watch the driver and hear their reactions as they sit in simulators, as their homes, as online feeds supplement the footage shown. Oh my God, I totally killed that. On to our last article of the day. This one is again from Taipei Times, but it was kind of interesting to me because it said Taiwanese women on average give birth at 32. Now, I want to read the article to give my thoughts, but I want to give it in a different perspective at the end than the average person. The government should offer more incentives to encourage companies to invest in making their businesses pregnancy friendly, specialists said. Taiwanese women who gave birth in 2018 were on average 32 years old, while 31.12% of women who gave birth in 2018 were 35 and older. The first time that the figure has exceeded 30%, report released on Monday by the Health Administration. Giving birth at a later age poses health risk to the mother and the baby, the HPA said, urging women to give birth between the ages of 25 and 30. The number of newborns in Taiwan has decreased from about 210,000 in 2014 to 180,000 in 2018, down 30,000 in just 5 years. While the average age of the first-time mothers rose 31%, the Ministry Interior data showed. Women aged 35 and older represent 23% of all women that gave birth 6 years ago, increasing it to 2018 30%. The Taiwan Association of Gynecology said that as a nation advances to certain levels, the education period of women is extended, and about 50% of women enter the workforce after graduating, inevitably delaying parenthood. However, the population of women who give birth at 35 and older in Taiwan is growing faster than expected. So I want to stop here because this is my thoughts on the article. If the age keeps going up, then think of your grandmother, or think of this child. First, think of this child. Okay, if you're 35, that means if your child waits till they're 35 to get married, to even get married or have a kid, you are 70. You're maybe dead, perhaps. And so therefore, you don't even get the joy of being a grandmother. Not to mention, if the way it's going, you might already be retired before your kid is of legal age if this keeps going. So are women robbing themselves of being a grandmother? My mom, she had many kids and she loved them, and that they were her life. And if you keep going over and over and putting yourself first, I don't know. But those are my thoughts, that you're robbing yourself of being a grandmother, and you're robbing yourself of being a parent and finding a purpose in your life. Leave your comments below. I would love to hear them. Moving on to our next article of the day. It's going to take place in Thailand. We're going to discuss, is it a hard times, hard choices, or is it a cop-out for decisions you made? So let's take a look at this. Koi, a 39-year-old vendor, decided to terminate her pregnancy after her family earnings plummeted due to the virus outbreak. The pregnancy was unplanned. I was 6 weeks in. The new reality was discouraging. I know it isn't a good way, and many people may think what I'm about to do is morally wrong. But I have no choice, and it's hard to accept, said Koi, who has two children, ages 14 and 10. Really? You can't put it up for adoption? You can't give it to somebody else? I don't know. Koi and her husband opened a food shop and a flea market in downtown Kenkane, but shortly after the government imposed a curfew barring people from going between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m., customers started straying away. Their income dropped by 50 to 70%, and their savings have plummeted as well. While it is true that Thailand and Taiwan do most of their business in the night market versus the day market, this thing is not going to go on for months. She said un, she said she understands the situation as the virus is wreaking havoc on the economics worldwide, and many are affected by the disease. But she said it is hard for her struggling family to survive through this period. But why is her family only her and her husband? Where's her parents? Where's her community? Don't they say a community raises a child? Koi and her 40-year-old husband were earning around 30,000 baht, which is about $1,000 a month, by selling food. But now they make less than 10,000 baht, so that's about 300 a month, and not enough to raise her family. When I found out I was pregnant again, I was shocked because I don't know how I can afford a third child. We have extremely limited funds and live in a small house on which I am paying 2,000 baht monthly installments on, so rent. So I don't get it. All right. Technically, it was almost illegal to get an abortion in Thailand. I'll get into that. It only became legal a year or two ago, like in 2017. So it's not like the U.S. where you can just do whatever. While the pregnancy was not planned, she was discussing the issue with her husband, who urged her to consider carefully. Yeah, the husband wants to be the father, but he has no choice in the matter, right? We agree that we need to make extra money, but that may be difficult at the moment, as no one knows when we will return to ordinary life. The virus has really destroyed our livelihoods. Really? Why can't you do something online? And when the school reopens, she needs money for her children, her two other children, uniforms and such. Okay, and the article goes on because she wrote this as past tense, but then the article at the end says she hasn't made her choice yet, but she's most likely going to get rid of it. I want to share a little bit about the Vietnam law now, because I've always wanted to share different cultures, different laws with you. So hold on a second. Now let's move on to a little bit about Thailand's abortion laws to be amended. Thailand's court has ruled that a section of the criminal code is unconstitutional, and as it fails to hold men responsible for illegal abortions. The ruling will take effect on February 3rd, 2021, so about a year from now. The court handed down the ruling for pro-abortion activists. So basically it's Section 301 to 305. In Section 301, it stipulates that a woman who has terminated a pregnancy by herself or allowed a person to do it is liable to 3 years in jail or 60,000 baht. So that's about $2,000. So keep that in mind. And so, but the way the wording is, that means only women will bear the legal consequence of illegal abortions. Okay, so the men don't have to pay, but then again, the man created the child, but he's not carrying it, which is against the principles of equality guaranteed by the Charter. Thus, men who pressure their partners to seek an illegal abortions must also be held liable and accountable according to the petition. The court ruled on Section 301 of the Criminal Code violation in 2017. The Constitution, which accords equal rights and liberty to men and women. However, the court found that Section 305 does not violate the Charter. The Section 305 of the Criminal Code exempts licensed doctors from prosecution if they perform the abortion for legitimate medical or sound reasons, such as pregnancies that pose a physical or mental threat to the mother, or for victims of sexual assault who are younger than 15 years old, where the fetus shows severe and fatal abnormalities. Okay, so this is their law. So her child is not sick, and she's against the law. So anyway, leave your comments below. I know I'm partially being harsh, but I'd like to know your comments on abortion. If it's a cop out for her, or if she's reasonably to be able to do it, or how are abortion laws in your country? Please let me know. I'm very interested in learning about different countries, different laws. Our next article of the day is going to take place in Laos, actually. And Laos always has a special spot in my heart because it was a very beautiful country nature-wise. It was almost like the whole country was a Yosemite National Park or Yellowstone. So let's read our article. Poor rural students in Laos lack tech to learn from home. So as many know, like in America, many places are going for the smartphones or online. In Vietnam's case, they're actually doing it for the TV because not everybody, they have less online than America, but they do have some phone apps. But then Laos actually is a whole other story. They're poorer than lots of other countries. So COVID-19 has forced Laos to join countries around the world in closing their schools and using online distance learning. But rural and urban poor students in the Southeast Asian country are not only lack computers and access to the internet, some even live in homes without electricity. Yeah, it's quite bad. The ninth poorest of the 10 members in the Association of Southeastern Nations, so the ASEAN, so they're very poor, like I said. In the terms of the GDP, Laos underfunded education systems have been struggling since long before the coronavirus strains started spreading around the country. Families with students in the town of Long Bieng, Vignette province, told REF Laos Services that the students in the households lacked access to a smartphone or computers while they are being told to study at home. Yeah, if these kids walk around with smartphones, people are going to easily steal those there. The students stopped learning since the schools closed down. They can't use YouTube to learn because our village doesn't even have electricity. One mother said. So not only that, but other villages don't have the internet. But despite not being connected to the grid, she said, my family is making the best of the situation. They will just keep doing their homework necessary assigned by the teachers before the closures of the schools. We parents must help them do their homework, she said. Another mother who requested anonymity said her children and other students in the village cannot learn online because unlike the students in big cities that have smartphones and laptops or tablets at home, they have none at home. Teachers were caught off guard by the government's announcement that the schools were being closed, so that they hastily had to make homework assignments without knowing how long the schools were going to be closed. Okay, about 80% of the students are learning on smartphones or computers at home. The teachers are connecting lessons on the message platform WhatsApp. The farther of a student of a private institution school of Laos says. But even in the cities, there is a disparity between the rich and the poor, and people don't have the tech. So I'm going to go off here in a minute because I'm going to bring up something else that I actually found a Laos school that's being built. And while I'm trying to do something good, for every person that subscribes to my channel between now and the end of the month on the YouTube, I will donate 20,000 Vietnam Dong or $1 US, and the charity will go all month long until the end of the month, and it'll be my way of helping those who are less fortunate. So all you have to do is click and show your support for me, and I will extend it to people in need. My question for this video: what apps or what services are you using, or what process are you doing to homeschool your children? Are you the homeschool teacher? Are you going through online programs? Are you using the TV? What are you doing? Leave your comments below for this video. I really would like to know. Moving on today to a funny story. A woman arrested for leaving a fetus in a suitcase in Nagoya, and this is in Japan. So a 20-year-old woman was arrested on Sunday on suspicion of abandoning a fetus in a travel bag in front of a nightclub in Nagoya, police said. Hiroko Kanyoko told the police she had become pregnant through a 22-year-old employee of the host club, an establishment that provided male companions to female customers, and had an abortion last December. If you actually want to know more about this type of work, look up my North Korea's hiring women video. It talks about this exact job that she's doing. She had kept the fetus of the child at her home and hinted to the man about abandoning it. According to the police, the two had lived together until the start of this year. Kyoto, who worked in a restaurant, has admitted to the allegations that she had abandoned the fetus in the bag near the entrance to the club. Judicial autopsy showed that the fetus had been aborted at about 5 months old and that it was difficult to detect the child's sex. The remains were found after the man reported the police around 10:15 Saturday that there was a foul smell coming from the red bag measuring around 40 centimeters long. The fetus was wedged between gauze, was inside a cardboard box placed inside a paper bag. Alright, so my question for you is, what is the weirdest thing you have ever found in a suitcase or bag or trash dumpster that you've ever opened? I'd love to know your comments below. Okay, on to our next story today. And this is more of a public service announcement, as many scams of this are going on all over the world. Victims lose over 110K to China officials in impersonation of scams about the COVID-19 outbreak. Scammers stole more than 110,000 in a new Convid-related ruse in which callers impersonate staff from the Ministry of Health by referring victims to perpetrated officials from China. The police said in a statement on Monday that since March they have received at least 5 reports of this new variant of China officials' impersonation scam. Impersonating Ministry of Health staff scammers claim that China officials had seized parcels containing contraband medicine to treat the virus. They said that medicine was registered under the victim's name. These calls were then transferred to another person claiming to be from the Chinese police investigation case. The victims here were tricked into providing the impersonations with NRC numbers, passport details, and internet banking credentials in order to clear their names. They were told not to disclose any information to anyone else, but to contact the perpetrated Chinese police officials daily. Scammers using the same ruse previously impersonated staff from their companies, telecommunication services provided, and officers from government organizations. Victims typically told their mobile numbers are told their mobile numbers are linked to a crime and that there is a court case against them, or they have committed an offense and need to assist in an investigation. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. But I'm going to let you know, like in myself, when I grew up, the internet was brand new, and you probably got these emails before. Hey, you just won 1 million euros, but we need this information, your name, your address, your phone number, your credit card to pay taxes, then we'll send you money. Other times I've been through where they've taken like a virus on your computer and it says, call this number and we will help you. And because we are official Microsoft employees, but they're scammers though. So I have gotten these. My question for you is, what scams have you experienced in your lifetime, or in what ways are people scamming around you, taking advantage of this virus? I want everybody to be safe. Don't be rash, and don't move fast. Be patient and calm, and people will not be able to take advantage of you. Leave your comments below. Article of the day. And this takes place due to online learning, and this is going on all over the world. But in today's article, Zoom was hacked, and therefore all public information was stolen. So here we go. In Singapore, no more Zoom for home-based learning after hackers show obscene photos to Singapore students. Singapore has suspended the use of video conferencing tool Zoom by teachers, its educational ministry said on Friday, after very serious incidents occurred in the first week of a coronavirus lockdown that has seen schools move to online learning. One of these incidents involved obscene images on screen of a man making lewd comments during streaming of a geography lesson with teenage girls, according to the local media reports. Zoom video communications has been plagued with safety and privacy concerns about its conferencing app, which has seen a surge of usage since offices and schools around the world are shut due to the virus lockdown. Now, I want to just point out here that yes, Zoom was hacked, but what has not been hacked? I mean, we've had our social security numbers hacked in America. We've had our credit reports hacked in America. We've had credit card hacks. We've had bank hacks. You've had your doctor's social security hacks, everything. You've had YouTube hacks, Facebook hacks. What was that? Sony, the conglomerate was hacked and they lost all those trade secrets. My point being, everything was happening. This is a drawback to using online because there's nothing is ever safe online. You know, furthermore, if they were doing this, like I was an online teacher and sometimes I still do it, but in order to do it, like they generate a whole new classroom, like 10 minutes, a link before the classroom opens. So you can't sit there for an hour. It's not public space. It actually just randomized generates it right before the class starts. So there are safety protocols, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that cannot be hacked. And that's where one advantage where a TV lesson is better than an online lesson right now because you cannot hack what's on TV. Anyway, leave your thoughts below if you've experienced any hacks or how comfortable do you feel about your online classes. Do you feel safe? What precautions do you take? Please leave your comments below. I would be really interested in knowing. An interesting twist. And I actually saw a video on this earlier, like a video, and then now I found an article on it to share with you. The Taiwan News says China imposes restrictions on coronavirus research publication. Oh wow, this is get better and better. China's censorship affiliates is kicking into high gear once again with the new restrictions on the publication of the COVID-19 research, as it seeks to push the narrative that the COVID-19 may not have originated from Wuhan or China. According to the government directive published by the University School of Information in Shanghai academic papers, the virus will not be published until they receive the green light from the Special Task Force team. The announcement came as Beijing scrambles to counter allegations that the outbreak started in China. Several studies conducted by the Chinese researchers and published in prestigious medical journals, including The Lancet, have linked COVID-19 with the wet market in Wuhan. The move has raised eyebrows in the country's academic community, with a Chinese researcher expressing concern about scientists being muzzled on the research of the pandemic. The researcher spoke on condition of anonymity in fear of retaliation from authorities. China and the U.S. have recently engaged in a blame game over the origins of the virus. When Beijing has pushed back against Trump's surge of the coronavirus cases. All right, so anyway, my take on this, we all knew this was coming, at least I did, but in this case, you know that the news firms and the academics and academies all over the world, they take Chinese money, like Australia takes all the Chinese students, all the Chinese money, the corporations, businesses in America, they do. So whoever takes the money, whoever gives out the money, the people that take it have to follow the lead of the boss. So in this case, we kind of saw this coming. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Do you want to know where it comes, or do you just not care? I mean, I personally don't care, but I was more shocked that people will probably just walk away and go, whatever. Anyway, leave your comments below. Well, that will conclude Loyal World News. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Feel free to like, subscribe, or drop a comment below. If you're on the go, listen to my podcast with the link provided in the description. I will see you tomorrow to share more world news.